You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Folks, listen up. US Cellular wants to help everyone get the gift of connection this holiday season. Already a customer? This applies to you too, because right now, new and current customers can get any phone, and I mean any phone, for free. Yes, free. Sounds like it's time to make the switch. Spread the holiday cheer far and wide this season with a new phone. Everyone can get the gift of connection at US Cellular. Get any phone free today. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com for details.
A best of the Dan the Batard Show with Stugotz. The best of Mike Schur. How to be perfect. With Mike Schur, creator of The Good Place and Parks and Rec.
I want to encourage the audience and the people who support us to support the new book, How to Be Perfect. The correct answer to every moral question is available today. Mike Schur is joining us. He's written the book, and I don't mean to be paternal, and I'm sorry if it sounds this way, but I am legitimately proud that this man, with so much going on in his life, decided to tackle this project because the pandemic and some of the selfishness in the world bothered him so much that he decided to write a book about every philosopher throughout time, how they would answer every question. It's a philosophy book. It's a degree of difficulty book. It's got comedy in it, and I encourage you to buy it because it's available today. He also does for Meadowlark Media, the podcast with Joe Posnanski, and it's great. They're fun, and they're smart, and their sports analysis is excellent when they deign to talk about sports, which isn't all that often. So I want you to support what it is Mike's doing because I'm telling you that this project of his was a big tackle. How's the reception gone so far, Mike? And thank you. We've got a lot of different things we want to do with you here, including something wonderful for Stugotz. But how is the project going with the book, and how is it being received?
First of all, thank you, Dad. That was very nice of you to say that you're proud of me. It's going well. I mean, I don't know. We'll see in a week or so, I guess, if people bought it and liked it. But it was a labor of love. It came out of making the show The Good Place and thinking about this stuff and talking about it with some very smart and funny people for about a part of 6 years. And it was sort of like my exit interview from writing that show. It was like, here's everything I learned, and I'm going to try to present it in a way that people can actually enjoy instead of the original philosophy books, which are usually dense and opaque and unreadable. So I'm proud of it. I'm happy that I did it. It was not easy to do, although it did give me something to focus on during the pandemic when I was locked in my house.
But you say labor of love. It was also a labor born of fear and horror, correct? You're decent about these things, but what is happening in this country is like you don't get more appalled than you get when you worry about the threats to democracy all around us.
That's true, although I started writing it before the pandemic, before a lot of this stuff had happened. So it was a combo platter. It was like, I think this stuff is really important every day. And then also recently, especially in this country, some things have happened that have made it even more important. I tried not to make the book political or about the pandemic, although it would have been kind of easy to do that. It's really just about like looking around and trying to figure out maybe how we can all be like 1% better. It's the Moneyball approach to morality, I guess. It's like, let's just try to get like 1 or 2% better in a bunch of different arenas in our lives. And then a rising tide will lift all boats. That's the basic idea.
So leftist liberal hackery.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's, we assume that for me, right? That's a given.
Hollywood elite.
Hollywood elitist, leftist, socialist, whatever. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So we're asking you to support the people who support us. And this podcast is climbing because it is a lot of fun. And he has smart people around that he has fun with. And this guy, we like to have fun here. This guy is somebody who has been doing comedy for a generation of people across Saturday Night Live, Good Place, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Parks and Rec. So with that as your introduction, Stugotz, do you know what's coming up here? Because one of the best moments we've had in the last year is when Mike Schur, during Freedom, did a ripoff of you, a copycat, an homage of just Stugotz's weekend observation.
It was incredible. I was honored. I have thanked Mike a couple of times via text, but I have no idea what's about to happen.
Mike, do you want...
by the way, it was a Suey award-winning performance.
Yes.
You know.
Wow, congrats.
Congratulations.
Boy, yes.
And so what do you want to tell Stugotz, because he does not know? We have teased him today saying we've got something delightful going on, because that's as happy as I've seen him in a year. When you were doing During Freedom, a great comedy writer was basically doing a ripoff of Stugotz. He was joyous.
Yes.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the show, and I listen to it. I listen to some part of it essentially every day. I've been listening to it every day in the new year in 2022, and I have made some observations here in January.
It is time for
Mike Schur
to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boys.
Mike Schur.
January Observations is brought to you by DraftKings. Lost another 6-team parlay and hoping to salvage your weekend by taking the under on Minnesota-Boston College women's ice hockey? Try DraftKings. Dan, after a solid thrashing at the hands of the Alabama Crimson Tide, it looked like all was lost. But then came a thrilling national championship game where that defeat was avenged and a title was delivered to the Peach State for the first time in 40 years. And after that decisive victory, make no mistake about it, Mike Ryan's hair is back.
Hollywood supports me.
Mike's hair. Mayor. Hey, Mike. The excuses and explanations to get out of shaving your head when it's clear that you're supposed to shave your head. The endless appeals and explanations and filibusters that have gone on so long, we're all annoyed and kind of just want to let you win. Mike, the Stugotz is strong in you.
You're playing both sides.
It's a heady play by you, my friend. No pun intended. The show would be better without Mike's mullet. Business in the front. Disaster in the back. Shave it. I'm just kidding. Never shave it, Mike. Why? Because bleep them, that's why. Hey, new Meadowlark Media drinking game. We all do a shot of tequila every time Dan Batard says the phrase, across decades. We will all be dead by 11 a.m. Hey, Dan, you can just say for 20 years or for the last 30 years. You've been using the phrase across decades. Across 2 decades. Chris Cody, fired by ESPN, rehired by Dan, wondering where he fits in Meadowlark Media. And all it took for him to find his place was to royally screw up an ad read so badly that the company had no choice but to lean in and embrace the futility. Sheets and giggles, shiggles, thorough incompetence, thompetence, and yet he is by far the more talented Cody.
Oh, wow.
What happened there? What happened there? Chris Whittingham. Good morrow, my fine sir. Prithee, didst thou see the Arsenal-Liverpool fixture in the Carabao Cup semis? The Gunners had the run of play and were by a fair bit the better side. But the Liverpudlian swashbuckling attack proved too strong, and the Diogo Jota brace proved the difference. You're British. That's what I'm saying.
Twas
You're a
enthralling.
British person. A person. Now, please don't tell Dan that we recently had a lengthy text exchange about international test cricket. It's true. Witty. I recently listened to a local hour and heard David Sampson take a bold and brave stance in favor of coaches hitting their players on the head. You rarely hear the pro side of that argument. So I salute you, David Sampson, for standing up for what you believe in, which in this case was that coaches should be allowed to hit their players on the head. You know what the I in David stands for, Dan? It stands for I think it's fine when coaches hit their players on the head. David Sampson, appearing in a documentary about Woody Hayes. Collision Course. That's right. I just dropped a Woody Hayes reference.
Cody loved it.
I did.
Because he's been the standard for coaches punching players on the head.
Across decades.
Across 5 decades. That's right, Dan. Great job by you. Jessica Smetana, the only person in the world whose top 3 sports interests are the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and someone named Lewis Hamilton. And before you tell me that Lewis Hamilton is actually the biggest sports star in the world, because actually Formula One is the biggest actual sport in the world, I don't care. Formula One. Blah, blah, blah. Max Verstappen. Blah, blah, blah. You know what, Max Verstappen? Do it at the Aramco Gran Premio de España in Barcelona. Guy was 15.84 seconds off the pace at the Aramco Gran Premio de España in Barcelona. Wants to call himself a champion? Please. Verstappen couldn't even beat Valtteri Bottas at the Rolex Turkish Grand Prix in Istanbul. Max Verstappen? More like Max keeps stopping. You know what the V in Verstappen stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Very far behind Valtteri Bottas at the Rolex Turkish Grand Prix in Istanbul. Mehdi. Roy Bellamy.
Uh-oh.
How's it going, man?
Doing good, Mike. Thanks.
All right?
Yeah.
Everything
yeah.
all right?
Yeah, everything's all right.
You've been a little quiet recently. And by recently,
Across
I mean
decades.
since 2007.
Across decades, yeah.
But here in January, you've been even quieter. Is it because the Lightning are nipping at the Ice Cats' frosty paws with the Maple Leafs right behind in third? It can be stressful being a fan of a sport that no one cares about.
You're right.
I should know. I watch baseball. Speaking of which, Billy Gill.
Uh-oh.
Pitchers and catchers report in like 2 weeks.
Maybe.
Assuming there is a baseball season. Which there definitely might not be. You know what the B in baseball stands for, Dan?
I do not.
It stands for bleeping it up.
Yeah,
As in the owners are really bleeping this up.
they always are.
Billy, don't worry about baseball being canceled. It's only about 9 more months before you can go back to hosting a podcast featuring Jabba Chamberlain and one of the lesser Gronkowski brothers. Every morning in my podcast feed, I get somewhere around 60 new podcasts from you guys. The Local Hour. The Big Suey. South Beach Sessions.
The podcast with Joe Posnanski and Michael
The
Schur.
post-game show. I'm getting there. The post-game show. Cinephile. Montgomery and Company. Off the Looking Glass. Something called The Podcast with Joe Posnanski. Drunk Amin El Hassan talking about basketball. You know what the W in Meadowlark stands for, Dan?
I do not.
It stands for way too many goddamn podcasts.
So true.
DraftKings gave you $50 million. That's about $8 per podcast you put out. I know content is king, but slow the hell down. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those The January.
Yes.
Observation.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
That's hard to do. I don't know whether you feel pressure or expectations on the stuff that you do, because it is hard to continually meet those expectations.
Mike Schur's top 5 actors that will steal your wife.
Top 5 actors who you're worried that if you leave them with your wife will leave you.
Need to look out now.
Number 5.
John Hamm.
Hambone.
Did you see him last night at the All-Star game? Still, I mean, looks amazing.
Steaming.
Guy's crazy.
Perfect. And very masculine. Number 4.
Timothy Oliphant.
Thought you were going to go with Chalamet.
No, Chalamet's
You're showing your age, Mike.
A beautiful person. No, of course I'm doing this based on my wife. I'm worried about my wife. Chalamet's a beautiful person, but he's less threatening to me because he's made out of fine china. He weighs 110 pounds, and that's less threatening to me. Oliphant though, cowboy, rugged, handsome, perfectly symmetrical face. He's got it all. All right, number 3, I'll say Manny Jacinto. Manny Jacinto played Jason Mendoza on The Good Place. I don't know if you've ever seen what he looks like, but he's not. I don't think he's a human being. He was sent from outer space to be attractive.
At any point, as you write a book about people making principled decisions in all circumstances using life's and history's philosophers to choose, is this person, Manny Jacinto, somebody who could actually lure your wife, or are you now realizing that you need to make your list a bit diverse here, because otherwise it's just going to be everyone looks like John Hamm?
Go look at pictures of Manny Jacinto on the internet and tell me that you wouldn't be worried that your wife would run away.
I'm
with
not
him.
saying he's not beautiful. I'm just asking you if you have considered before making your list, I can't have 5 John Hamms.
No, not everybody is as cynical as you are, Dan. Some people don't make everything a calculation.
Number 2.
Number 2, it's Christmas.
That's fine. That's fine right there.
Number 1.
Actually, number 2 is to tie. It's Christmas and Idris Elba.
Great shout.
Yeah,
he's beautiful. Number 1.
I find his accent to be so mysterious because it's South London Cockney, but it's also like there's also like some other hints in there. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. It doesn't sound like Ian Wright. He sounds like Idris Elba.
His accent is the technical lexicographical term for it is handsome. He speaks handsome.
Handsomely, yeah.
Put it on the poll, please, at Batard Show. Does Elba speak handsome? Number 1.
Matthew Reese.
I need to Google image this guy. I have no idea what he looks like.
He looks like a KGB spy that you would let spy on your country because you couldn't tell him no.
That's right. If you Google him, you won't. Your first instinct will not be, oh, this guy is as handsome as Idris Elba or Timothy Oliphant, but watch The Americans or anything he's ever been in.
He does some wild shit in that show too. That you're just like, wow, they really went there on TV.
Gotta be honest, I'm not seeing it, lads. I'm telling you, I'm not seeing it. With Matthew Reese.
It's not about the photograph. It's about the performing.
For all their contributions to society, the modern blue-collar worker remains undervalued. From the stereotypes they receive to the clunky work boots or stiff apparel designed by people who have never worked a trade job a day in their lives. That's why Brunt Workwear was created by workers for workers. Brunt is a brand transforming workwear. Brunt understands that when you're on the job, you need gear that can keep up with you. Blue-collar workers often require sturdy and durable work boots to protect their feet and provide comfort during long hours of labor-intensive work. That's why Brunt designed their boots and apparel with and for real workers to be durable, comfortable, and ready for anything. Workers like them are the backbone of this country, and they deserve better. Brunt makes the most comfortable and durable boots you'll ever try. You deserve high-quality gear at the best possible price. Try Brunt risk-free with a 30-day on-the-job trial and free shipping and returns. Use code GBF for $10 off your first order at bruntworkwear.com/GBF. That's BRUNT workwear.com/GBF.
Don Le Batard.
A recreation of the iconic scene in A Few Good Men as told by Chris Cody.
Stugotz.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled to them.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Mike Schur tries to break the Look at Me Louie record.
We revealed to him that Augusta has caved, and now they are allowing players on the Live Tour, Mike, to play at Augusta, which was really the last bit of leverage the PGA Tour had over their golfers.
Yeah, I mean, eventually they'll just be the only game in town, right? That's the goal. The goal is just buy everybody out. You know what this reminds me of, actually? Can I tell you a brief story?
Yeah.
So I was having this discussion with Bill Simmons, who's a good friend of mine.
Sports guy.
So Bill and I were thinking about like times in history when major sports leagues kind of went off the rails, right? And he was like, you know what this reminds me of? And then he told me that he had been having a conversation with Seth Meyers from SNL.
Is that for Simmons?
And Seth is actually a very good friend of mine. He was actually the best man at my wedding.
He was?
Seth was the best man at my wedding. So I hadn't talked to Seth in a long time. So I texted him. I was like, hey, can you talk about this thing Simmons and I are talking about? And he was like, I can't. I'm out to dinner with Amy Poehler.
Look at me,
Mike. So I was like, well, let's just FaceTime. Let's just all FaceTime right now because I haven't talked to Amy in a long time. Amy and I used to work together at Parks and Recreation. So they FaceTimed us. So it was me and Bill Simmons and Amy Poehler and Seth Meyers were all FaceTiming. And Amy, I was like, Amy, do you know Bill? And she was like, I don't think so, but they're from the same neighborhood in Boston. And he was like, oh, you're from Lexington? And she was like, no, I can't remember where she's from. He was like, oh, you're thinking of John Krasinski. I also used to work with John Krasinski at The Office.
Look at me.
And so they were kind of catching up and they were talking about Boston. We were all talking about Boston. And then into Simmons' house walked Mike O'Malley, the writer and actor Mike O'Malley.
Ooh, from Guts?
Guts, and Mike and I are old friends too because he was actually on an episode of Parks and Recreation that I wrote a long time ago.
Look at me. Do you have it?
So we were all talking about this, and then we realized that what's really going on here, essentially, is that these sports leagues have just decided that, you know, like Live Golf, that they just don't care about the consumer anymore. And I was like, I mean, they're not wrong to. I can't remember the last time I watched golf. And then I remembered the last time I had watched any golf at all. I was watching a golf match here in Los Angeles with Steve Carell from Parks and Rec, from The Office. And I can't remember who else was there. I want to say John Krasinski was actually there too. But the point is that we hadn't. I just hadn't watched golf in a long time, and that's why something like Live Golf can get away with what they're getting away with. Woody, how'd I do?
Was there a story?
How'd I do, Woody? Wait,
that was 11. Look at me, Louie.
That's a record.
So
that is an all-time record. We got to give him the fanfare for that all-time record for Look at Me, Louie.
Well done.
Thank you so much. I wish I had an actual trophy to hold, but for now I'll just hold this Emmy.
Wow!
No, hold on. Sorry, it's too big. I'm gonna hold this Peabody Award that I won instead.
Kind of underwhelming award.
Thank you, Le Batard Show. Thanks to Amin Al Hassan for inventing the term "Look at Me, Louie." I think accidentally, like he was maybe trying to say "looky Lou," and then by accident made up a term that we all use. Anyway, thanks to him, of course. Thanks to all the legends of the Look at Me, Louie game, the guys I grew up watching and idolizing for their ability to always make it all about them. J.J. Watt, John Harbaugh, Aaron Rodgers, Monty Williams, Elon Musk,
Salt Bae,
Nick Saban, everyone who's ever hosted a Drive Time Boston area sports talk radio show, LeBron, The Rock, most Major League Baseball umpires, all NBA referees, anybody who posts a picture on Twitter when a celebrity dies just to prove that they knew the celebrity. And of course, Darren Rovell is a good one, and of course, Chris Whittingham. Thank you. I'm so proud to hold the all-time Le Batard show record for most Look at Me Louie's in one segment. Thank you.
Way to go.
Very good. Congratulations.
Mike, I have a follow-up. You said Seth Meyers was your best man. Do you have like a real life best friend that was offended you chose your celebrity best friend?
Now I'm going to get Look at Me Louie for real.
Do it.
It's not going to be a bit anymore.
I want the entire wedding party. I mean...
You had to have like your friend that was like, you know, you grew
went
up with
to college together or high school or something.
And you chose your celebrity best friend.
Did you ask Regis for your wife's hand?
I did.
Reg.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I'll tell you. Who got Look at Me Louie there? Cody?
No, me.
You
for asking for Regis Philbin's hand.
Yeah, Reg.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, he didn't ask for Regis Philbin's hand.
Thought you never asked.
That's actually not far off from what happened.
So who was a real friend that was offended?
No one was offended. I asked Seth. Seth and I had gotten very close, and I'm so now.
Do you
I
have
think
normal
I'm get hit with
friends?
it for real.
Do you have real friends like normal?
I do. Yes, I have
People
real
we've
friends.
never heard of.
But I thought that giving a speech at the wedding was going to be a tricky thing to do, and I thought that Seth would be more comfortable doing it than maybe.
So your real friends are boring.
So yes, you did have a friend.
Yeah, they're not as talented.
My best man selection, I went to keep things simple. I went with a brother-in-law, but I have two brother-in-laws, and it came down to who I trusted more with the speech.
Yeah,
so the older
right.
brother got it.
Right.
So you're basically
That's the
saying
deal.
that the people who attended your wedding needed to be wowed by the speech, and
Great
so you went
orator.
for Seth Meyers.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the person who gave the speech was going to be in a certain kind of spotlight that I thought he would handle very well. And also, we were legitimately very close friends. We had been working together for a long time, and it made sense.
Who was at your
God,
wedding?
Get off my back.
Who at your wedding in the audience were you trying to impress with Seth? Like, who were you trying to impress with the
I wasn't
guest
trying
list?
to impress anybody, Billy. It wasn't about impressing
Lauren
people.
was there. Who were we
It was merely thinking about who would deal with the pressure the best of anyone, and I thought that.
What was his
answer
opener?
Seth.
Why was there so much pressure on this?
Because
You're a celebrity. Who was there? Because of the attendees.
So here's what's going on right now. I texted Whitty last night. I was like, hey, I have a dumb bit I want to do on the show. I want to see how many times I can get Look at Me Louie and then claim that I set an all-time Le Batard show record. Now,
We're here.
because of the dumb bit, you're trapping me into getting Look at Me Louie for real. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not going to answer
You're
this
the one
question.
that said that.
Sounds like you wanted to show off your trophies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who are the groomsmen?
Well,
Just like
you're the
help
one
us
that
out.
said. You're the one that said that you based your best man selection because of the pressure associated with, and that leads
because
to
of
an
the
obvious.
guests at the wedding, not
because of the guest
necessarily
list.
He doesn't want to
our
hurt
guests.
Kyle's feelings.
What?
Because of the guest
Some
list.
of our guests and some of my in-laws' guests were people of note.
Yeah.
And I
Who
didn't
attended the
want
wedding?
to-
Top five?
Yeah, give us a list.
Top 5 people who attended
Yeah,
your
top
wedding.
5
Can you do that, please?
People of note.
Top five people of
I'm gonna
note at
change
your
it.
wedding.
Yeah, to impress them. I mean, that's,
Who was the
there's nothing wrong
least
with that.
favorite person at your
Oh, the
wedding?
OLI is going to be
Mike sure lives in
controversial.
a different world than we do.
Kyle
okay?
can't give a
I mean,
speech and impress Kathy Lee Griffin.
The crappiest celebrity is a funny question, I think, actually.
No,
Who's the
that puts them in a terrible spot.
Yeah, you can't do that.
That's why it's good.
Who was the crappiest
No,
celebrity
don't
at your wedding?
ask them like that. You got to be smart about it. Like, who was in the fewest amount of SNL sketches or something like that attended your wedding? You can't go crappy.
Give me a second.
He's
Filibuster
putting together a
while
top
I-
5. Hold on, he is putting together a top. I don't know which top 5 he's putting
I
together.
said-
Do you think Reed?
Top
Do you think
five people of
Reed?
note.
Do you think Reed makes the top 5?
I do think
no chance.
No,
No
but
chance,
you can't
no
use
chance.
you can't use your father-in-law.
Yeah.
What year did you get married, just so we have a frame of reference?
2005.
Had to be when Seth Meyers was famous. So
This is like kind of that was sort of like transition times. That was kind of like we were moving into the.
In 2005, Jimmy Fallon was having a moment.
Did Seth charge you like a fee?
No,
Yeah,
it was just
like a small fee.
Did he ask you follow-ups like what's your last
Like
name?
like an appearance fee.
Did he have to get like a suit tailored at Men's Warehouse or something like that?
What famous band performed at your wedding?
Why would he have to get a suit tailored at Men's Warehouse?
It's like that same thing. You're in a bridal party and you got to go to a Men's Warehouse and you got to.
Seth Meyers.
right. You gotta show up.
He's not you.
He has never stepped foot in a Men's Warehouse.
Did he walk in as a customer, but did he leave as a friend?
Did he like the way he looked?
It's guaranteed.
I guarantee it.
Jinx.
He's putting together
I'm
a
going to
top
say right now,
five.
you cannot use Regis.
Mike, Men's Warehouse is kind of like an affordable suit place for us normies.
Poor
Yeah.
Kyle, man.
Yeah. All right.
He probably had a lot of good notes.
You don't have an old Italian man who just comes to your house and tailor makes you suits like I do?
Do you know how good the guest list had to be that it's taking him this long to put together a top 5?
Is this best celebrities or worst celebrities at your wedding?
He's doing best.
I'm gonna also
I want worse.
ask a follow-up list, so start having your mind best celebrity but with worst gift. All right, so yeah.
Okay,
most
wait.
famous celebrity
hold-
that provided the
all right.
worst. The bottom 5 gifts from celebrities at your wedding.
Did Seth Meyers give a gift, or was his gift the speech that he made? Like, did he give you a gift, or
I believe he also, as per tradition, gave us a wedding gift. Let me
asked a lot
suggest
out of
something
him.
to you right
What
now.
was it? Gift
Instead
card?
of doing something very tacky, where I name celebrities who were at my wedding, can I instead tell you a fairly incredible story about a particular wedding gift that I got from a particular person who attended the wedding? And I will promise you in advance it's worth your time.
all right? Tell us the story first, and then we'll see.
I know.
okay?
I know the story. It's a good one.
Yeah, I have to go get. Give me 30 seconds to go get this object.
So
and then I will tell you the story.
we're exchanging this for the list.
Yes, but I promise you it's worth it. I
It is a
promise
good
you.
story.
There's no bid. I promise you it's worth it. Give me
it-
10 seconds to go get this.
It will shock you. There was someone that attended his wedding that will shock you.
Yeah,
Given what you know about Mike Schur.
But how do you feel about this exchange? Because
Is it
we were
Trump?
about to get the top 5.
There's a payoff here. Not just the person, but the gift.
Okay.
The gift is so on brand.
So since you know, you would rather have this story
It's
to
a
the
great
audience.
story.
Okay.
It's a great story.
Okay.
It's a fantastic story.
Okay, here we go. 2005.
The story was ruined. We already know the answer.
Yeah, we
New York City. I heard. I was still listening.
AirPods.
So a good friend of
furious?
a good friend of my in-laws at the time was a New York real estate mogul named Donald Trump. He later would go on to be the president of the United States. So we get in the mail, my wife and I, a giant box from the Trumps that said, and we're like, oh my God, this is the wedding gift. Like, this is amazing. What did Donald Trump get us for a wedding gift? And we pull it out, and I'll show it to you.
Oh my God.
It's this vase.
But wait, there's more.
I believe it is the ugliest object I've ever seen. It's certainly the ugliest
Probably
object
expensive,
I
though.
own. But I believe that it's the ugliest object I've ever seen in any medium. So we're like, okay, what is this story here, right? Like, did he he didn't go to a store and buy this? Like, he didn't even have his assistant go buy this.
You didn't
Like,
register for that.
No, we didn't register for this vase. So we're trying to theorize, and there's no note, there's no piece of paper that says, like, here's what this is or anything. So I'm like, what is the story here? I formulate a theory. The theory that I formulate is that it is overflow decoration from one of his casinos. Like, he bought 5,000 identical $12 vases to go into like the Atlantic City casino. And I was like, right, like imagine you're walking down a hotel corridor in a casino, cheap casino hotel, and there's like stanchions all along the walls, right? And like every 10 feet, there's like a vase like that looks fake fancy, right? Maybe I'll bet that's what this
Fancy.
is. And as I'm formulating that theory, I look and I turn it around and look at the back. There's nothing on the back. So clearly, it's designed to just face out like this. And he's so cheap that they didn't even, he was like, don't paint the back. The back's going to face the wall of the casino.
Told you
Not
it was
amazing.
worth it.
I mean, look how
It's
ugly.
worth
Look
it.
how
Yeah.
diabolically ugly this object is.
I'm
Just
sure,
shocking.
I'm sure now, we've told this story on air now, but I feel like if you had sold this during the height of Trump's presidency, you could have gotten a lot of money
have done
from
a
one
lot
of
of
his
good for
supporters.
I had a plan to go on Seth's show because he was there and he knows the story, and auction it off and give all of the money to either a charity that was fighting something he was doing or just his opponent. Like,
Or
just
Joe,
make
Joe Biden.
I was like, whatever, and then you own this thing. You can smash it with a sledgehammer. You can throw it off a building, do whatever you want.
Oh, next
and
Moss.
then then the pandemic hit. And I was thwarted. But yeah, maybe if he runs again, maybe I'll still do that.
Yeah, next Moss, Miami. We destroy the vase.
I mean, fantastic.
Or just smash it right now. That clip will kill on social.
Oh yeah, do that right now.
Just stand up and spike it right now. Come on.
No, I wanted to. If
Insult
I
the Buffalo
destroy
Bills
it,
while
which
you
I
do it.
want to do, I want it to be. I want it to raise money for something.
For Ron
I
McGill's
wanted to
Wildlife Conservation Fund.
Take out the Bills right before. Yeah, do that.
Yeah, it's what Donald would have wanted.
Yeah, say that Ralph Wilson Stadium should have a dome over it before you do it.
Yeah.
You really get the socials.
Can I somehow still pry the list out
Yeah,
of you?
I like
Please?
the list, if
Can I-
possible.
can I-
You started working on the list, so just give us what you had already worked on.
Right.
No, I'll just say that number one is that Tony Bennett sang "Fly Me to the Moon."
Oh,
Wow.
Jesus Christ. Nice. Reed got that done for you, huh?
He did indeed.
He's a friend. All right, let's get your set of the day.
Start of the day,
So awesome.
start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day.
The stat of the day is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Folks, very few professional basketball players make it to a 20th season. According to StatMuse, the most points per game in a 20th season, Robert Parrish had 3.9 points per game.
The Chief.
Vince Carter had 5.4.
Insanity.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 10.1.
Lou Alcindor.
Oh my
His nickname?
Captain.
Dirk Nowitzki had 12 exactly points per game in his 20th season. And with a whopping 17.6 points per game, an unbelievable figure in his 20th season, the late, great Kobe Bryant. Oh, sorry, my bad. He's not in first place. He's in second place. In first is LeBron James, who's averaging 27, 8.5, and 6.5. In his 20th season, 27 points per game.
Mike, thank you so much for that story. Really, the stat of the day paled in comparison, but we finally got the Trump vase.
We've got one more question about your wedding before you go, though.
Hey, Mike, it's Tony. Listen, quick question for you. 2005, I put that basically in the heart of one of the best times in reggaeton history. Did you guys have any reggaeton at the wedding or no?
Gasolina.
Zion and Lennox.
Say
Daddy
we
Yankee.
did. No, we had a band. I think there was some at the rehearsal dinner party the night before, but we had a band. We didn't have a DJ, so I think it was more like
Tony Bennett.
It was more like Hey Ya, and it was more like Outkast and stuff like that than reggaeton. But I got white guys for talking about Outkast.
How many times did you play Hey Ya?
I didn't play anything.
You did the dance,
band
didn't
played
you?
it.
You were on the dance.
How many
floor
times did you
ready?
shake it like a Polaroid
Exactly,
picture?
yeah.
Can you just say Hey Ya for us?
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair. I'm going to say it right now. I don't think that's fair.
Was Gelman there?
If I had said we had like Paul Anka instead of reggaeton, fine. But Outkast, come on.
Was Gelman there?
Gelman was there.
Of course he was. He's family. I mean, come on.
Is it a good gift from Gelman?
I don't remember offhand, but I believe it was. Kelly Ripa was
It's
there
a trip
too.
to Morocco.
We had the whole show.
How much money did you make? I mean,
off the wedding?
Yeah. Everybody knows the best part of the wedding is just sitting back counting the envelopes.
Oh, it's the best. Right at the end, yeah.
I don't think we made $1. I don't think anybody gave us money.
Wow.
I mean,
No gift
why
cards?
would anyone give us money?
Classic rich people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wedding.
Why would
Yeah.
anybody give you a vase from their casino?
Right.
Fair.
All right, Mike. Happy holidays. Thank you so much.
Hey,
for
is this
joining
your
us.
last show of 2022?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What?
Yep.
Yeah.
You went out with a bang,
You went
Mike.
out with
Yeah.
probably. It's certainly a Suey nominee for story.
If you got married like this upcoming year, who from the show is getting invited?
Just Dan.
Oh, great question.
It's just Dan.
Well, how many people
I don't
attended
know.
your wedding?
I guess it would
Whitney
depend
is
on
looking
the
longingly
depend on
into
how the
that-
size of the wedding.
Yeah, how many
You
people
know.
went to yours? Like
Whitney's
500
looking
plus?
into that screen like he feels he should be invited.
He does.
It was like 220 or something.
Well, that's not
I
that
mean,
big.
honestly, there would be fewer folks probably invited by our parents and my in-laws and stuff. So there'd be more room. I'm gonna say the whole shipping container can come.
Yes.
Everybody,
Yeah.
you guys are all in.
right. Yeah.
If I get married again this year, you guys,
The old redoing of the vows, you know?
You're from Hollywood.
You got 3 weeks. Get on it.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting Tony's MMA Hangout, by the way, live from your wedding. We're going to appreciate that, especially Juju. All right. Happy holidays, Mike.
happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Schur's Marathon Observations.
Well, I mean, I've been watching the marathon. I've made some observations.
Oh, wow.
I guess you could call it marathon observations.
Yes.
Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
You've got marathon observations. All right.
I've got some marathon observations.
It is time for
Mike Schur.
to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Marathon observations is sponsored by no one because it's 7 a.m. on the West Coast. You've been live for 22 hours and no one is listening anymore. Dan, after decades at ESPN, multiple suspensions for various shenanigans, public battles over China, and LeBron James billboards, the firing of Chris Cody, the rehiring of Chris Cody, and one very awkward interview with Rob Manfred. Make no mistake about it. The Dan Batard Show with Stugotz is back. The pirate ship. The best thing that ever happened for fans of this show is not DraftKings giving you $50 million to do whatever you want. Nor is it you giving us 24 straight hours of content that we didn't want. The best thing that ever happened for fans of this show is the Florida Panthers losing in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
He's right. Yeah.
So we don't have to hear 10 more hours
So right.
of Mike and Roy talking about Sergei Bobrovsky and Coach Q, the Ice Cats.
Bob.
Wait. I take that back. The best thing that ever happened for fans of this show was the Miami Heat getting swept in the first round of the playoffs. So we do get to hear 10 more hours of you realizing you could have had James Harden for Tyler Hero. You know what the first R in Hero stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Rut-row. You know what the second R in Hero stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Regret. Because you could have traded him for James Harden. You know what the O, E, and R in Hero stand for, Dan?
I do not.
Overrated.
Yes, of course. I should have.
You know what the H in Harden stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Hero. As in you could have had him for Tyler Hero. Hey, Dan, you know what the difference is between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics?
I do not.
The Celtics won a playoff game this year. Dan Batard telling me that Boston is racist in retaliation for these Heat jokes. Collision course. I spent 4 hours in the shipping container in 2018 while writing a piece about this show for Slate.com. It didn't smell great then. I can only imagine what it smells like now after 22 hours of you packed in there like sardines. My guess is that it smells like sardines. Chris Whittingham, a non-Caucasian guy who loves advanced metrics and soccer and uses words like chicanery and calls 0 nil. And every time he says something fancy, a little jingle plays that makes fun of how fancy he is. Somewhere, Pablo Torre is jealous.
So jealous.
Witty.
So jealous.
Jessica Smetana, a football-obsessed woman who leaks confidence when she talks and is unfairly asked to answer on behalf of all women every time something happens involving women in sports, because none of the dopes in that room know how to talk about misogyny without putting their feet in their mouth. Somewhere, Mina Kimes is relieved. Smetty. Yesterday at noon, I wrote a joke for this bit, and the joke was that this 24-hour marathon would be the longest Dan has ever gone without drinking tequila since the first 10 years of his life. Then I turned on the marathon 8 hours in and saw Dan and Charles Barkley drinking tequila. Dano, here's my review of the guests I've seen so far. Ron McGill, great as always. Jim Rome, take it down a notch. Jamel Hill casually drops that Skipper gave her first $1 million check. Legend. Pat Riley, pretty chill. Like really chill. Like maybe he somehow got into Stugotz's stash right before the Zoom started. I'm pretty sure at one point, Pat Riley called Amin El Hassan amino acid.
Yes, he did.
He did, right?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. And also showed us a UFO. Showed us an actual UFO.
Shane Battier. You know how Shane Battier is aging, Dano?
Not at all.
Like a fine wine.
Yes.
But the best guest, by far, the deer behind Michelle Beadle. John Skipper should sign those deer to a multi-year contract and have them just roam around the Clevelander. I saw the official poster for this marathon. Mike Schur on the poster. Adnan Verk on the poster. Brockmeyer, a fictional character, on the poster. David Sampson, not on the poster. Miami finally gets its revenge for that god-awful stadium that built the city out of $1 billion. You know what the S in Sampson stands for, Dano?
Swindler.
Super pissy that he's not on the poster. Fountain of content. More like fountain of being super pissy that he's not on the poster. If you don't like this marathon, might I recommend you flip over to ESPN, where every day they do an accidental marathon featuring 24 straight hours of New York Jets coverage with Mike Greenberg. This marathon started 20 hours ago with Dan crying and Stugotz carrying a feather duster and Billy holding a 7-day-old baby. And the only woman in the entire studio being forced to stand up. And Stugotz sitting in his chair shirtless. And Chris Cody sitting in a pool full of goo. And Mike Ryan covering a Verizon Live read that Dan couldn't do because he was crying. And Amin and Poppy on the roof in a fake pirate ship. And all that was in the first 30 minutes. And you're still going. DraftKings didn't bail right then and there. The hell are they thinking? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the marathon observations.
That is, professionally done.
Yeah, I'll still be talking about the Panthers, though, Mike. I'll still be talking about the Panthers. Thank you very much.
Unbelievable.
Poor man's Bill Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. Thank you for being on with us. Mike Schur, you are the best, sir.
Ah, the sizzle of McDonald's sausage. It's enough to make you crave your favorite breakfasts. Enough to head over to McDonald's. Enough to make you really wish this commercial were scratch and sniff.
And if you're a sausage person, now get 2 satisfyingly savory sausage McGriddles, sausage biscuits, or sausage burritos for just $3.33. Or mix and match. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.